was preceded by the strategic plan that the school developed last year. So when we sat down and started interviewing firms to help us design our campus master plan, even in those interviews, we started with the school's strategic plan, so they would understand the foundation of how to create a long-term plan for the school. And once we selected a firm, BDR out of Atlanta, we spent a lot of time with them going through the school's strategic plan, and not only the plan itself, but all the survey work that had been done to help create the strategic plan. So in those surveys, we were asking parents and faculty members and students and other stakeholders, how would you like to see the campus grow and evolve long term? Would you, I know it's hard to imagine, but there was even a question in there, would you like to see Hamilton Hall renovated? And you're probably sitting here this morning thinking, how can it get any nicer than this? But there was kind of a litany of projects that had been identified over the years, but then there was also an open-ended part of the survey where people could identify the things we may not have involved in. So wanted to show you kind of this slide, which represents what the campus looks like today. And as you may recall, a year or so ago, the school bought a parcel of land adjacent to us, the Georgia Power property, which is where campus is now. We had not really redrawn what the current campus plan, or the current campus site plan looks like. And that's this with Georgia Power represented. And then what this is a fairly new slide that represents some of the work that we've created over the past year in terms of identifying potential new buildings, renovations, expansions, improvements. So we're not yet finished with the plan. We're still meeting with a firm in Atlanta. We've been updating the board along the way. They've had an opportunity to sit in some pretty in-depth conversations about what we think the priorities are for the school. The plan itself really is driven by that strategic plan, which is fueled by programmatically what is the optimal campus to best serve the school and its mission. So I share this not for the purpose of saying, here are all the elements that are going to be in the final campus master plan. I share it more just to let you know about the process and the fact that we're not there yet, but we're hoping over the next couple of months to finalize, again, a long-term campus master plan. And in the 13 years I've been here, while we have done a lot of planning, we've never had truly a long-term campus master plan. So once the board adopts and codifies the final master plan for the school, we'll then step back and think about how to bring it to life. And that will involve what is often referred to as a feasibility study. We'll then start thinking about sequencing what those projects, how they should evolve. And we'll be reaching out to stakeholders, candidly seeking prospective donors to walk them through some of these ideas and to get a better understanding what is viable from a financing standpoint, what really resonates with donors, and that's something we'll be doing over the next year or so. So I do want you to know if this is something you're interested in, I'm happy to sit down with you and walk you through kind of some of the work that's been done and where we're headed. I'll say in a month or so we'll have more to share. But again, if it's something you're interested in, just let me know. I'm not going to go through all these bullets. The slide is intended just to demonstrate there's going to be a lot of work and construction happening on campus this summer, and most of it is tied to the migration of the 5th grade program moving to middle school and having a bifurcated middle school model where 5th and 6th grade will be housed in Benefield Hall, and 7th and 8th grade will be housed in Fleming Hall. And to make that happen, there are a lot of moves that involve, for example, the advancement office and security moving out of Fleming Hall and moving into the administration building where the 2 current 5th grade classes are, along with Nurse Hope, the school clinic. And then that will free up classrooms in Fleming Hall for a new 7th and 8th grade science lab. And then Jill Smith will be moving into where the advancement office is. And again, by some moves that are happening in Benefield Hall, those spaces will be open for the 2 new 5th grades. So, and then there are just some other projects that are kind of part of a refresh for upper school, for lower school, and in the B line. Last thing I wanted to cover, and Helen's in the back if you have any questions on this, but rather than starting with Helen, I want to kind of brag on the great work that she and so many others have been doing. The slide I'm going to show you is historic, and it's something to be really excited about. This demonstrates the enrollment timeline of new students. And one of the things that Helen talks a lot about is when we enroll new students. And it's a little unorthodox for an independent school. Historically, we enroll as many or often more students after Memorial Day than we do before Memorial Day. Kimbrough would tell you, I love it, they have all their students enrolled by April. But they're really working in the fall to get to that April date. Certainly the boarding schools are doing it in the fall. So it's a little, again, unconventional. But when you look at those 2 red arrows, and the column that shows how many students are enrolled before Memorial Day, the most new students the school's ever enrolled was in 2019 and 2020, which was 99. Right now, Helen has already enrolled as many new students that were enrolled 2 years ago at this time, and she still has 5 or 6 weeks and a lot of applications in the pipeline, plus another dozen or so students who've been accepted. They're just completing the enrollment process. So I mentioned that just to say the admission office is very busy. The island is very busy. There's a lot of excitement about Frederica Academy. And when you look over to the past 2 years, so the bottom 2 rows that are fully populated, you'll see 99 and 96, the number of new students we've enrolled over the past 2 years. When you go back and look at those students who are still here from that first year, 99 year, and the number of students who are still here from this year, that represents 45% of our student population. Think about that. 45% of our current students have come in the past 2 years. And when you see what's happening this year, there's just a lot of new energy and excitement for the school. But it also means it is a school that next year, the majority of it will have only been here for less than 3 years. So, just a quick update. That's all I have. I see Martha standing up to give me the hook.
That's who I am, but I want to tell you everything that we're doing. Thank you so much, John. And everything that he just presented to us is information that we've also been incorporating into our mission and goals. And everything we do as a parent association is shifting to that reality that he just posted, which is 43% or more now, right?
Almost 45.
45% of our families here at Frederica are new in the last 2 years. that is huge. And so our mission and our goals are shifting to really reflect that, from being a very traditionally minded, you know, what are all the things that people do, to a more adaptive minded, how are we doing things for new families, how are we welcoming, how are we building community, how are we incorporating all of these new families into Frederica and making them feel and that they know that they have a voice, and that, you know, the sky's the limit in terms of what we can do as parents for our children here. So John, thank you. I really appreciate that, and we're going to be coming back to that a lot. Right now I want to introduce Laura, and then I will definitely talk about our No Gift Too Small challenge. Laura's here. Laura Nevins, for those of you who don't know Laura, we're back on live stream, I hope. Welcome to our live stream audience. I appreciate it if you're up. If we're up and running, that would be awesome, because I know we have lots of families who are watching live. But Laura, I just want to thank you for coming. Laura's going to talk to us about all things college related. All of the students who are busy right now in April, the mid-April, waiting for those letters of acceptance, and some of them have heard and some of them haven't. And then all of the things that she does and that the school offers us as parents, and offers our children and all the students for college preparation. In terms of college preparation, her program is phenomenal, and I'm really excited that Katie's a freshman, and I know that we're going to get really close really soon.
Right. Thank you so much for having me. This is a very exciting time of year. So like Martha said, our current seniors at this point, they've heard back from all the schools that they have submitted applications to. Majority of them have already made their decision as to where they'll be matriculating next year. Just a small handful are still making that decision, but they don't have much time to make that decision. National Deposit Day, which is scheduled for May 1st, is quickly approaching. 30 days also May 1st, remember that. But I'm excited to share with you today a little update of where our class of 2021 is, some of the statistics that came out from this year so far, and also to share with you how the landscape of college admissions is ever changing. Before we get into that though, I'd love to kind of get a lay of the land here. How many of you have lower school children? Okay, and then middle school, and then upper school. Okay. So a little bit of a mix of all three divisions, but one thing I really want to stress is whether you have a lower school, middle school, or upper school child and have ever been through the college admissions process, no two experiences are the same. And I'm going to mention that again in this presentation in a little bit, but just remember that everyone has a different experience and best fit, and that's really the mission of the College Counseling Center, is to help every student in our school find their college of best fit. So it's not the best college they can get into is the one that they need to go to. It's where they can see themselves growing and maturing for the next 4 years of their life at the next stage of their life. So without further ado, I'd love to present our current college acceptance list. And I'll let you read this. I hate when people talk when I'm trying to read, but I'll just give you a minute to kind of look over the list, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. So this college acceptance list is very exciting for me. I think I say this every year, but it just really does get even more exciting every year. This is a representation of 170 college acceptances. And right now we have 41 seniors in this graduating class. So 170 college acceptances for 41 seniors. That's a great accomplishment for our students. Also reflected in this is the 56 different colleges and universities. So you'll see we have some repeat acceptances. If you see a number in parentheses next to the title of the school, that is the number of students who were accepted into that actual school. Obviously, students can apply to as many colleges as they would like. We do not limit them as a school. The average number of colleges that our students apply to is about 5. We saw that this year as well. It kind of rings true from year to year around the 5-6 number. And so that's now a reflection of this list. We are exceptionally proud of our students and all that they've accomplished by having acceptances into this school, but it is not the accomplishment of a single year. This is an accomplishment of years and years of dedication to both their academic studies, their extracurricular profile, and a testament to their character and who they are as individuals. So kind of jumping off of that, now I want to share where they've chosen to matriculate. So obviously students can apply to as many schools as they like, as I said, but they can only choose one school that is truly their college of best fit, where they can see themselves for the next stage of their life. So this is our current list. We do have 5 students who have yet to make their decision, but as I said, time is ticking. They have about a week and a half to make that decision. And right now, I don't anticipate this changing drastically. About 61% of our students are choosing to stay in state. That number varies a little bit from year to year, but the past 2 years we've seen about a 50-50 split. So this year we are seeing more students choose to stay in state. More students are choosing to take advantage of their Hope Scholarship and Zell Scholarship eligibility. And for those who maybe have lower middle school children are not as familiar with Hope Scholarship, for students who graduate high school with a 3.0 GPA, they are eligible to receive between 70 and 90% of their in-state tuition paid for. For students who have a 3.7 GPA and either 26 on the ACT or 1200 on the SAT, so it's tied to those standardized tests for admissions, they will get full tuition scholarships if they stay in state. So that is something that is a big part of our college discussion with both students and parents when we talk about college of best fit, because in that fit category is also the financial piece. So for some students that is a selling feature and they choose to stay in state, and for other students it may not be as necessary, the financial may not be as necessary for them to do that, or they've received other scholarships at other schools that make it more affordable for them to go out of state or to a private school. So again, we're really excited about this current senior classes matriculation list. And again, I stress, it's not just the accomplishment of a single year, right? So let's talk more about that. So this year in particular was a unique year. I think we could all acknowledge that, right? Unique for many reasons. One, we've been wearing masks all year. But 2, for college admissions, the landscape for applying to schools changed. The landscape for getting admitted into schools did change this year. For starters, test optional admissions policies. This was all over the news. Sheer panic of students as they were entering in the fall of what that was going to mean for them really came into play this year. But just as I advise students for schools who've always been test optional, students took their standardized tests. We were very lucky in this kind of region of the United States where students were still able to continue to take standardized tests this summer and this fall. In other areas, like for example the North, students have been unable to sit for any standardized tests. So our students had somewhat of an advantage of given the opportunity to sit for those tests, which they had been preparing for, because the work we do inside of the classroom does prepare students to be successful on those tests. They do need to put forth a little bit more effort in preparing for the actual kind of format of the exam and then the timing of the exam. But they have the skills necessary to do well on that exam. And so all our students actually sat for SATs and ACTs. And what we've decided to do is, again, seeing as every other school who was test optional before the pandemic, if the student's score was at or above the college's average, they submitted that test score. If it was below the college's published average, then we did not submit that score. And I'm happy to share with you that that did not seem to influence at all the result of where our students actually received acceptances from. And I'll talk more about what that means and the different elements that go into a college application in a few minutes. But standardized testing is a piece. It is not the only piece. And so for a lot of colleges, it really wasn't a significant change, the fact that they were allowing students to apply to their school as a test optional. candidate for admission. But yes, colleges were test optional. Vast majority of schools were test optional. That was a significant change for colleges this year. Another significant change, and it is still also a change, is accessibility to get onto college campuses. So colleges basically shut down for visitors. Admissions offices closed. A lot of admissions officers were reading applications from their living room, from their bedrooms. They were not in the office this year at all. And what that meant was that our students, which historically have been able to get on college campuses from freshman year, to see and experience what it was like to be a student at that campus and kind of understand the lay of the land, meet with professors and students and see all the opportunities they had available to them if they were a student there. They didn't have that this year. And so what we saw was a wonderful trend of colleges posting virtual tours on their websites. And that is something that when I spoke to admissions counselors this year, they said, I don't know why we haven't been doing this forever. This gives every student the opportunity to get a glimpse of what our school looks like. So that's something that our students, even though they could not physically get on a college campus, majority of them could not, they still had the opportunity to visually see what that school looked like. Also, kind of coupled with that, information sessions, which is something that colleges put out when students visit their campus to provide more information, not just about the admissions process, but about the school as a whole. Those also became virtual opportunities. So families, even to this day, can sign up for a virtual tour or virtual information session on the school's website. We are still patiently waiting and hoping that more and more schools will begin to open their doors to visitors so they can get on campus, because nothing beats the opportunity to visit a campus for yourself and see and experience what it's like. But that is the next best thing, to be able to get on campus virtually and see what it's like. And then the last thing I want to mention about a significant change, in college admissions this year was the number of applications that each school received. Some schools received 20% more applications. Schools like Columbia received 45% of an increase. Georgia received 40%. And so with more applications comes more qualified candidates typically. And so we saw a very competitive year for college admissions. Not just Frederica, but every school saw this, right? So this is something that I will be patiently awaiting to see if it continues. Or it could just be that more and more students did not have the accessibility of their college counselor, did not have the accessibility to visit schools. And so as a result, they decided they were just going to apply to all of them and see what happened. So this is something we'll be keeping a closer eye on. But again, I'm happy to share that the increase in applications did not seem to have a significant result or impact on our student population here when it came for their college acceptance list. So in years to come, this is my projection. Test optional admissions policy. Some schools have already announced that they're going to continue on with the test optional admissions policy. Some schools have given a time frame of for the next 3 years, or some schools have said this is now our new policy. Other schools like Alabama just announced last night, as I was finishing the final presentation, that they will continue this for at least the next admissions season. Most schools, I think, are waiting until this summer to make that final decision, depending on what the climate looks like for things reopening. But the reality is, like I mentioned, majority of students have been unable to continue to sit for standardized optional policies in place. We have a unique process here in the state of Georgia where our public institutions cannot determine on their own whether or not they're going to be test optional. They are waiting for directive from the Board of Ed before they can come out with any statement on that. And it's a collective decision amongst all the state schools that will be made, not just a single state school. So private schools have the autonomy to decide on their own what their process will be, and then our public schools, specifically the ones in state, do not have the ability to decide individually if they will be test optional. They're waiting for direction from that. So definitely more test optional policies are to come. We'll hear more about that in the summer months. And then college campus accessibility, as I mentioned, more and more schools have opened up an option for students to receive a virtual tour on campus. But beyond the 2020-2021 school year, that will stay. That will forever be a thing. It allows students who are in different geographic regions of the world even to have the ability to get a glimpse into what a college looks like. And so the online, the virtual component is something that is here to stay. Obviously, physically getting on campus definitely that option will be reopening hopefully in the next few months for students, but I foresee the digital component being a significant factor for colleges to beef up in the coming years as well. And then there's a question mark on the third, because I'm not a genie and there's a lot of unknown. If this year as a whole has taught us anything, is that there is a lot of unknown and we cannot predict the future. But there are some things that we know that are here to stay forever, forever. And that is the elements that are essentially being looked at when a student submits an application. The first, and I'm a former admissions counselor, I should have shared that also, and so what we see here has been in place for many, many years, will continue to be in place because standardized test scores are not a predictive factor of how successful a child will be, not just in life, but also in college, right? Statistics have shown that, colleges know that, and so primarily the first thing a college admissions officer will grab when evaluating a child's application is their transcript and looking at their high school curriculum. Because what is an accurate predictor of how successful a child will be in college is their performance in high school. And that statistically has been proven. So again, the first thing that they're going to look at is a child's transcript. And what they're looking at when they examine a high school transcript are the courses that a student has chosen to enroll in at their individual high school and the grades that they've received in those courses. And I stress at their individual high school because every high school is different. Course offerings at high schools are different. Grading scales at high schools are different. And so these are things that college admissions counselors are reviewing individually when examining a high school transcript. In the admissions world, readers for applications are divided by territory. So we have I'll say for the University of Georgia, for example, there's one admissions counselor that is labeled as our counselor. She knows everything about our school, and she is the primary reader for our school. And so they divide this by territory. So even for a school that we don't really have a lot of students submitting an application to, they have an individual admissions counselor with the territory of Georgia or Southeast Georgia, who is their responsibility is when they get an application from that region or from that county, from that school, that they investigate the curriculum. We provide a school profile to every college that provides information about the number of advanced courses we offer, our grading scale, a little bit about our school, so they can get a glimpse into what Frederica is compared to another school. So again, students are only being evaluated based on the context of the school that they're coming from. They're not being compared to another student at another school who had opportunities that maybe our students didn't have, or didn't have opportunities that our students maybe had. So what a student chooses to take and how they do in those courses, extremely important. And then the next thing that they're going to look at is a student's cumulative GPA. And that's tied to, again, what they took in high school, what courses they took, and how they performed in those courses. There are some schools, when it comes to a GPA, that will just pull the GPA we publish on our school transcript, and other schools that will recalculate that GPA on their own scale. It just depends on the school. There are others, like California does not include 9th grade at all when recalculating a GPA. So everyone just does something a little bit different. But we stick to a very traditional grading scale. We stick to a very traditional grading system. So regardless of what a school chooses to do, typically the GPA that they recalculate to is not drastically, is not very different at all from our GPA that we publish on our transcript. So once they evaluate a student's grades and what they've taken, the next thing that they will look at is a child's essays. And this is growing to be a very, very significant piece of the college application process. It's something that we spend more time than we have ever spent with our students talking about. It's actually now a summer assignment for our rising seniors to complete their Common Application College essay. And then in the fall when they return, our English teachers will actually spend the first 2 to 3 weeks of school just working with students on essays. So the essay provides insight that is not available for the admissions counselor to see in any other component of the application. It is actually the only piece of the college application that is written in the student's words. And so it's an opportunity for a student to provide a perspective, an experience, an opinion, just a story they want to share that isn't overtly stated anywhere else in the application. So it's really important that that is obviously a well-written piece of work, and it's really important that it's reflective of what the child's experience is or what the child is wanting to convey in that opportunity. So we spend a lot of time talking about that. And then the next thing that is, again, with more and more schools becoming test optional, another thing that is very much considered and weighted heavily in the admissions process is an activity resume. This is another area we as a school spend a great deal of time on. Our students actually begin working on their resume in the 9th grade. I actually met with a 12th grade parent yesterday, and she said to me, I'm not going to say the name of her child, but so-and-so and I were talking yesterday, and he said that his friends at other schools don't even know what a resume is, and they just got their college decisions back. And I took a step back because, again, this is something we start talking with our students in the 9th grade. They never submitted a resume at all when they applied to college. A resume, what it contains are all the things that students do outside of the classroom. This is very important. Okay? Colleges don't want to see straight A's on a transcript and then see that the only thing a child did was sit in their room and study every single night, right? I mean, that makes for a really boring experience in high school, one, and it makes for really a not well-rounded individual. And so that's what we're trying to avoid. We want students to have a great experience in high school. Forget the resume, right? We want students to become active, explore their interests, explore what their career path may be. We want students to make friends and interact with their peers. And those are the things that they'll do in high school that we then will put on the resume. So work experience, community service, club and extracurricular involvement, athletics, awards that they've received, whether they're school-based awards or community awards, all of those things we put into a student's resume beginning in 9th grade. And they add to it periodically throughout their time at Frederica, so that what's happening is in August when they return from summer break, and we're in my office, which is usually crowded with seniors working on applications every period of the day, they're in that office working on their applications and not working on resumes. They're not trying to think of what they did as a first semester 9th grader in our school. That's already in there, right? So again, a really big piece to the application puzzle, because colleges are wanting to see what students are getting involved in, how they're using their skills and talents to potentially show leadership, which is a growing area that colleges are looking at in admissions as well, and what their experience has been like as a whole. And then the other things that they're looking at, recommendation letters. Again, being in such a small school, it's very likely that our students in high school will have the same teacher for at least 2 classes, which is very nice because our teachers really know our students. They have wonderful things to say about them, and those are then put into letters of recommendation that they'll be writing our seniors in their senior year. And then the last thing is the standardized testing piece. So this is literally the order that they will look at when evaluating an application. Standardized testing has never been the primary component of a college application. This is, I think, a big myth buster right here, right? It has always been something that's considered, but not something that's considered first. And so with colleges going test optional, yes, it changes things a little bit, right? It's another piece that they're not looking at, so they're relying on these other pieces to make the decision, but it's not a factor that significantly impacts the admissions process in a way that's earth-shattering. Am I good? Okay. So just want to share briefly a little bit about our upper school curriculum. It is a very intentional curriculum. The courses that we offer in our upper school are very much courses that are designed to help prepare our students for college. We offer 15 different advanced placement courses, and I'll go over those advanced placement courses on the next slide. 13 honors level courses, and students can begin to take honors level courses in the 9th grade. 25 different academic electives, and this is very much tailored to the areas of interest that our students have. So several years ago, students came to us and said, we want to learn more about computer science. We don't have any kind of computer science courses. This is an area I'm really interested in, and so we've added those courses. We've had students come to us and say, we want 8 alumni specifically, which is we rely on our alumni to really communicate with us and share what they feel they were most prepared for when they got to college and what areas they feel like we need to improve upon to make that experience better in the future for our students who graduate. And so we brought back AP statistics into our academic electives because that is something with the majority of our students interested in the science or business field, they felt they really needed to prepare for before going off to college. So again, these are very intentional courses that we offer our students. And then juniors and seniors also have the option to do a dual enrollment course if they choose to, both during the school year as well as in the summer. This is our list of AP courses that we offer. And for those who aren't as familiar with AP courses are not courses that Frederica Academy teachers design. They teach them, but they don't design these courses. They're courses that are designed by the College Board. So the same company that puts out the SAT or the PSAT, which you may be familiar with, they design the curriculum for AP courses. And so what our teachers do is they get trained on how to teach these classes and the content that students need to know in these classes, and they teach our students in a way that we as a school stand behind in instruction for our students. So we're teaching to the test because we're preparing our students to be successful on the test, but we're not teaching to the test in the way that you traditionally think, oh, they're teaching. They're only doing the material that they're required to because it's on the test. Teachers are incorporating their own kind of flair, project-based learning, as well as assessments as well, but into this curriculum. And then based upon how students perform on the National AP exam in May, which our students are actually gearing up for beginning May 3rd, they have the potential to earn college credit. And so we had students go off to college as sophomores, technically, in high school and college because they had accumulated so many AP credits. So typically, on a scale of 1 to 5, which is how the AP is scored, a 3 or better will give a student college credit. And again, if they can keep getting those great grades on that National AP exam, they have the potential to get college credit. Now, not all schools offer college credit opportunities. Some do not take AP credit, but the majority of schools do. SCORE is a program, we talked about resumes, just briefly want to share a little bit about how we work on a resume in the high school. SCORE is our web-based college counseling program. So all 9th grade students get access to SCORE the first semester of their 9th grade year. They are able to monitor their GPA in the program. They're able to keep track of any standardized test scores that they do have, build their resume, take a career profile assessment, which gives them an idea of different careers that they may be suited for based on their personality and their interests. It allows them to start researching colleges, seeing all the different things that colleges have to offer students as far as opportunities for academics, but extracurricularly as well. And it allows them in their junior and senior year to build their college list and then keep track of all their applications senior year. So this is something that is a partnership in the college counseling process because students have their account, I have my account, and parents will also have their individual account to help monitor what the student's thinking, recommend things to the student, and make sure we're all on the same page. So, talked about a lot of the different elements of college counseling, but wanted to share some advice not related to academics that I think is essential. So obviously the academic piece is primary in the admissions world because they're looking at a transcript first, right? But all the other things that come along outside of that transcript that I mentioned, like the resume, like teacher recommendations, this is really important in factoring what makes a strong candidate a strong candidate. So my advice to any parent, whether you are in lower school, middle school, or upper school, is the following. Focus on the here and now. There's a lot of unknown. We don't know what changes, additional changes will come into the admissions world in the next 5, 10, 15 years. But what we do know is that the more you do here in the moment, in focusing on reading, in focusing on listening skills and paying attention and interactive learning, the more prepared a child will eventually be. A child who hates to read is not going to be successful in an AP English literature class, right? So the more that we can do in the present moment to get students engaged and interested in what they're doing, the more successful that they will be later on. School's important, but the following are just as important, and I kid you not, this is so true. Social skills, coping skills, soft skills, and leadership skills. Soft skills is an area that keeps popping up in every conversation I have with admissions officers. In a conversation with Georgia Tech about a year or so ago, they shared with me that all the Georgia Tech applicants are extremely well qualified to be at our school. They admit the students that they admit, and then they come onto campus and professors every year say, where are the soft skills? How are they sending us an email with no subject line? How are they signing an email with no name at the end of it? So different softs, learning to speak to people in a proper way. Those are things that, yes, we do that as a school, but again, at home, those are some things in lower and middle school that parents can work on as well. And then my last bit, don't believe everything you hear. Just because it's in the New York Times or just because it's on Facebook does not mean it's vital. There are a lot of rumors out there about different experiences. There are a lot of rumors about who got into what school with what admissions criteria. There are a lot of different elements that go into the admissions application as well as the evaluation of it. So what one person is experiencing is not the same for another, and I think that is a big misconception. If I just follow what so-and-so did, it'll be just fine, right? It's not the reality. Next, it's okay to fail. What we don't want is for a child to go through the admissions process and receive a rejection letter, and it be the first time they ever received any kind of rejection. That's a huge hurdle to get over your senior year of high school if you've never had the opportunity to fail. And so this is a part of learning. This is a part of being in a school that is small enough where it's okay to fail because there are people around you who will help build you back up and make sure that you can be successful with the support that you need. Kind of piggybacking off of the first one too, and every child is different, and I started this presentation off with that. I work with a lot of siblings, and the pressure that some siblings feel to be in the shadow of their older sibling is immense. But every student is truly different. Their interests are different, their abilities are different, their experience will be different. I love this book, Comparison is the Thief of Joy. How true is that? And then lastly, developing boundaries. We want to slowly work towards taking a back seat. And this is teachers, this is parents, this is me as a counselor. By senior year, that child needs to be ready to be advocating for themselves at that next level. So anything that we can do between now and that point to help students with that transition will help them be tremendously beneficial, not just in the application process, but also when they physically get onto that college campus. That's all I have.
That is all I have. That's okay, thank you so much. We started a little bit late, that was perfect, you were right on time, Laura. Thank you so much. And you know, one of the things that I know is a question from a lot of new parents is how do you know in terms of when your student is ready to get into the upper school, how do you know what track they should be on in math, in science, and you know, how do they know that they're going to be as far advanced as they want to be senior year? They don't necessarily know what that means when they're choosing classes in 9th grade.
So in 9th grade, there isn't a ton of choice, and that's by design.
Very close to our
So in 9th grade, there isn't a ton of choice, and like I said, that is actually by design, because we're still trying to figure out ability, right? And not just ability, but the transition between middle and high school is so significant that we really want to provide students with an opportunity to discover what their strengths are and what we need to improve on. Math, I will say, is an area that really is worked on in middle school. So the math level is really not determined necessarily in high school as much as it is determined in middle school. Correct. And that is really the beauty of our small independent school here, is that those are conversations that happen amongst teachers and students and parents to really figure out what the child's
Jason Cavalier, Will Thompson, Isabella Crumlin, Jaden Roscali, Bella Clinton, and Rebecca Tiller. Please go to Mr. Riggs' room. Thank you.
What math class a student goes into in 9th grade is based off of what math class they ended in 8th grade with. And language is also.
Think about that in middle school
Yes.
parents, right? You gotta be thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about that.
Language is also like that as well, depending on what the child's preference is. So if they've taken Spanish 1 or Latin 1 in 9th grade, then 8th grade, then they have the ability to go into level 2 in 9th grade. Or they can choose, they can switch it. If they started off in Latin in 8th grade, they can change to Spanish in 9th grade too. That's also an option. But math is an area where that is, because it's building, because there are skills that you need to have taken pre-algebra in order to take algebra. You need algebra in order to take to take geometry. And so that is building, and that is not something that is necessarily decided upon at the high school level. It's actually decided upon in middle school.
Thank you. So that's exactly what Meredith was talking about, why everybody needs to hear you and to know you and to get to know you and to get to know all the information that you have for us, because you do need to be thinking about it, as our students go through middle school, for where they will end up. Thank you, Laura, so much for that. Couple of other things, we're going to truncate our meeting very short, but I do want to say thank you to Laura and to John for speaking to us today. I want to thank Jennifer Gordon for agreeing to lead our fundraising committee. I want to thank some of our volunteers, Marnie for stepping up and volunteering to possibly co-lead our family events committee, our new family events committee and social